have you ever heard of a farm party?
No, I have not.
No.
No.
Of a farm party before? No. I would just think of a bunch of animals.
Local medics and prevention groups say they're hard to track down, given the seemingly harmless names teens are using when referring to the parties, code names like a Skittles or trail mix party. Whether it's the bowl concept or just swapping pills, it's a real thing, and teens are partaking in these parties right here in the Permian Basin.
It's usually a small group of friends. It's usually just kind of, on the spur, on the fly type thing. Kit Bredimus is the director of emergency services at Midland Memorial Hospital. He's all too familiar with the term farm party. The trend started picking up here in 2008. Bredimus says that's when he began noticing more overdoses among children under 17 years old. Fortunately, the numbers began to drop and have since fallen to an average of 40 for the past 5 years. Last year, they saw a total of 41. Typically, the most common overdose we see is usually the opiate narcotics, usually leftover medications, and in children, in the teenager population, we typically see that either being the parents, that they've outdone their prescription, they don't need them anymore, they just had them laying around. Bredimus recalls one particular teen who was rushed to the hospital for overdosing at one of these parties. It made it extremely difficult to identify what exactly had been ingested, simply for the fact that they had just placed a bunch of different pills into a bowl to see what the effect would be. While the teen did survive, Bredimus says if treatment isn't done within an hour of the overdose, the chances of having a full recovery are slim. Trash, tires, tree limbs, and even dead animals. Officer Arredondo says they see it all in places where it shouldn't be throughout the city and county. The reason?
It doesn't cost them anything if they dispose of it on the side of the road. As if they take it to the landfill, they have to pay out of their pocket. During our ride-along, we caught a pair of guys red-handed attempting to get rid of their tree limbs the cheap and illegal way by throwing them onto someone else's property. They were, of course, issued tickets and were instructed to clean up their mess by disposing of it properly. People will eventually see if there's trash there, tree limbs there. Everyone from the neighborhood will start piling tree limbs there. And before you know it, the guy's property is covered in tree limbs from all around this area. Arredondo took us to a handful of other spots filled with tons of trash, furniture, and other miscellaneous items. And at each spot, he showed me how easy it can be at times to find the culprits. There's something. Sound a big spring. Mail items. People forget their trash contains letters with their names and addresses on them. It's one of the environmental office's go-to tools to bust offenders when they're not getting direct tips from the public. But aside from the dumping being an eyesore, it's more importantly a potential health hazard. Just pay your dues and dispose of it properly at the landfill. Make it, livable for everyone in this area. Just because you don't live in this area doesn't mean you should dump in this area.
No repossession is ever the same. We've had people be a lot more upset with us than, in some, but well.
Nothing that severe. Jimmy Tillman remembers the shooting as if it was just yesterday. He and Brandon Russell were in the process of repossessing 29-year-old Khalifa Mohammed's car when they realized Mohammed was actually inside of it.
Best way I can explain it is just that it was a repossession that had gone wrong. There wasn't much that, either me nor Brandon could have done to prevent it.
Turned around to a disturbance at Oakwood and University. It's going to be between complainant and somebody trying to repossess his vehicle. The PSR can hear arguing and heard somebody mention a taser.
According to these court documents, Mohammed was the first to call 911 as Tillman and Russell were attempting to confiscate his car. Mohammed could be heard saying, "Why didn't you let me get my stuff?" before the line disconnected. Meanwhile, as Tillman was hooking the car to tow, Mohammed slipped into the driver's side of his tow truck. Tillman then went to the passenger side of the truck, holding up a stun gun and demanded that he get out. Mohammed obeyed, and Tillman drove off, expecting Russell to follow behind, but instead heard at least 9 shots fired and found his co-worker unresponsive in his unit.
We're not out there to be the bad guy. We're out there just to do a job. I mean, Brandon was a great person. He didn't deserve this at all.
Tillman mentioned that it was tough reading Mohammed's aggression because he would go back and forth from being calm and angry. Now, he did mention that this tragedy will cause him and his co-workers to be more alert and aware of their surroundings. Now, on another note, Tatum, the family is still collecting donations for Russell's funeral expenses, and those who wish to make a contribution can visit our website at CBS7.com. Reporting live in Odessa, DeAnn Lopez, CBS 7 News.
Ninja Turtle.
Have you ever had a Ninja Turtle deliver pizza to you?
Yes! No, you never have.
Is this the first time? It's every boy's dream come true to have a hero in a half shell pay you a visit, let alone deliver dinner to your front doorsteps.
I'm smiling, but you can't see it. You know, I got the mask on, but it's priceless. See them kids.
Eloy Payet, his brother, and their wives dress up like the Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles every Thursday and Friday to deliver pizzas, all to keep the bills paid. Last February, Payet and his brother, both mechanics, had their pay cut by 10% and their hours reduced drastically.
I mean, at first, it wasn't too hard, but then over a while, it started hurting, you know. All that money we had saved up, it's pretty much gone.
The orders are made through their Facebook page, and let's just say business is booming for the family.
We were like, oh my gosh, we have to do this. It was like we didn't even think twice about it.
I was excited for the kids.
Payet and his family never thought they would be delivering pizzas as Raphael or Michelangelo, but love every second of it.
Say bye, Gina.
Now, Jay and Tatum, you have to give me a little credit for not telling that entire story without saying cowabunga.
It's one of those things that you think is not going to happen to you.
It took just one swipe for Jade Cornejo to lose over $1,500. The Andrews resident believes she fell victim to one of the 9 skimming devices found in the Permian Basin.
I was upset at first. After we got to the bank and I talked to whoever I needed to talk to, I just start crying.
It's people like Cornejo who Kent Quick tries to protect from crimes like this.
When we heard there were multiple skimming devices found, we immediately checked every single pump that we own and operate at our Kent Quick stores, and it was a breath of fresh air to know that we had not been broken into.
Terry Atkinson has been the company's chief operating officer for the past 6 years. For every shift, he has his employees check each credit card processor to make sure it hasn't been tampered with. Then they'll examine the locks and finally the 2 strips of tape that are carefully placed on the pumps. If any of the seals have been broken or tampered with, they will immediately call their maintenance team to examine the pumps. And as a security bonus, only 2 directors have the key to open the locks.
What we do differently, we do that every day. We coach that every day, and sometimes the pumps may be looked at 8 or 10 times a day.
And as an added warning, Atkinson wants any potential crooks to know they have a 360-degree review surveillance system running 24/7, meaning they can see your every move at each pump.
It makes you not want to shop here. It makes you wonder, you want to have to put everything on credit.
It kind of scares me. I don't want to use my card anywhere, to be honest with you.
For the first time, the Permian Basin is dealing with a rash of card skimmers, and they're popping up where you use your cards the most. 9 of these money-stealing devices now sit locked away by police after they were discovered through scheduled maintenance checks. Detectives like Waylon Klutz are now working to see if there's a connection between the devices found in Midland and Odessa, especially after 6 of the 9 were located inside the gas pumps of different Stripes convenience stores.
The suspect will usually pick a gas pump that's further away from the cashier. The cashiers are pretty busy inside. They're not going to really notice a car pulling up and then leaving.
Especially when it takes these crooks less than 1 minute to get the job done. One of the most frustrating things about skimmers is that you can't actually see the device from the outside of a pump. But there is one way to tell if it's been tampered with, and that's by looking to see if the seal, just like this, has either been broken or tampered with, and that it has the name of the gas station like this, Stripes, written across of it.
Or if it's been peeled and then placed back, most of the seals, whatever the word is, void or open, will be showing in the background underneath the seal number.
In a bold response to the amount of devices infiltrating their gas pumps, Stripes installed all new locking devices on all of their fuel pumps in Midland and Odessa to keep crooks from busting them open. And they did it in the last 24 hours. Jay and Tatum, a living miracle, is how doctors describe correctional officer Jason Self. The father of 5 has been told by every one of his doctors that if it weren't for the initial care he received at the scene of the crash, he'd be dead right now. In the 10 years that Orlando Rios has been with the Odessa Fire and Rescue Department, he's never seen or worked a crash as horrific as the one Jason was in.
I'd imagine that wreck over and over and over.
It was just before 8 a.m. when the prison transport bus hit a damaged guardrail on I-20 near Penwell. The driver lost control and skidded off an icy overpass and down an embankment where it collided with a passing train.
So is this Mr. Orlando?
Yes, ma'am.
It was an emotional moment. Jason and his wife Michelle met the EMT who saved his life.
Thank you.
Jason, 2 of his fellow correctional officers, and 12 inmates were on their way from the Middleton prison in Abilene to the Sanchez unit in El Paso. Minutes before reaching Penwell, one of the other correctional officers swapped spots with Jason, who was driving at the time, prompting him to take a seat in the back of the bus.
They said that the only seat that was still attached to the bus was the one I was in.
Orlando and his partner were the first paramedics to arrive at the scene. They knew they had to act quickly but carefully. After assessing the wreck, it looked like the back of the bus would be the easiest path to reach what appeared to be multiple lifeless bodies. People on the scene helped Orlando open the back door.
I couldn't tell what was what.
Debris was scattered everywhere, blocking all paths to the front of the bus. Orlando was getting ready to close the door when he saw fingers slowly moving. One had a wedding ring on it.
And it was shining. I mean, the sun wasn't out, but it was still shining. And I explained to Jason, with all the blood on him and everything, that ring stuck out. Just kept telling me to get him home, keep him alive, talk to him. He's married, has a baby.
Orlando expected spinal injuries, so he immediately called for a device known as a KED. The device, which is much like a brace, was wrapped around Jason's body to keep his head, neck, and torso from moving.
Come to find out, his neck was broken 3 different pieces, and a doctor said that man and that device saved your life.
There isn't a day that's gone by that Orlando hasn't stopped to think of how Jason's recovery is going. How does it feel, to be here right now?
Very, very warming, I guess, very heartfelt. Just to see your children, hanging out with you, and just your family continues. So
I love him so much. I'm glad that Orlando got my dad out of the bus and saved him and saved his life.
Although Jason continues to make astonishing improvements, he still has a long road ahead. Doctors say it will be another 2 years until they know what injuries are permanent and which are not. Aside from breaking his neck, Jason also suffered a broken jaw, left shoulder blade, arm, ribs, collapsed lung, and partial brain damage.
Sometimes I have a hard time remembering things, or when I'm talking, I lose track kind of what I'm talking about, or I can't find the words that I'm looking for. I can't, I can draw blanks.
What worries the family the most is the fear of the unknown. Just 10 years shy of his retirement, Jason thought his family's future was secure.
It just stresses me out. I don't know what I don't know. I don't know what like looking for a job. If I had to go look for a job tomorrow, I'd be scared to death. I wouldn't know, who would hire me.
Jason is still on the Middleton prison's payroll, and his medical bills are being taken care of by the state. But the family has concerns about how long that financial support will continue.
Every time I look at the mirror, I see these scars. It's just a constant reminder. And the pain every day, it's hard to get past. Hard to get over that hump.
His family has a message for the man who saved his life.
Tonight is probably the first night he's going to be able to go to bed, and he's like, I know how he's doing tonight. I know he's at home. I know he's with his kids. I know how he's doing tonight. And he's going to sleep good because he knows he has an end. But I want him to know that this isn't an end. This is a beginning. Because through this all, we have all developed a whole new family. And I want him to know that he is a part of ours.
DeAnn Lopez, CBS 7 News.